All right. How's everyone doing this evening?
I'm at the beach.
Good, good.
I'm getting ready for beach bash.
Good. Um, for some reason, it looks like my screen share is paused. Are you able to see my screen? Anyone? Are you able to see the screen or does it look
Yes.
black to you?
We can see
All
the
right.
The
slide deck.
coaches call 6.
Yes. All right. You can see the slide deck. Perfect. Sounds great. All right. So moving on. Just normal kind of getting started. So league stats as of today, 53 teams, 486 licensed coaches. We've got 120 female coaches. We're up 13 from the last time we got together, and 366 male coaches. We're up 16 from the last time we got together. So looks like you're continuing to get coaches kind of coming on board. We have 835 riders. We've added one in high school to get 361, and we've added 24 in middle school for a total of 474. And then our trend of 400 plus hour months continues again. We are at a total of 1,696.76. Somebody did record a hundredth of an hour. So kudos to being that fastidious with your timing. But that brings us to a total of an increase of 428.51 hours over this time last month. So we're moving right along towards our goal. Remember, our overall goal for the league is 3,000 hours. We are over halfway there at this point, so we're doing very well. Important upcoming dates, and so I need everyone to be very, very aware of what's coming up. So February 23rd, the late registration period ends. I've heard a couple of coaches, I've seen some emails, and they keep talking about the 25th. The 25th is not the last day for a student athlete to register with the league. It's the last date for the student athlete to register for Browns Creek. February 23rd is the last date for a student athlete to register with the league. And that's with that $10 late registration fee.
Shawn,
February, yes.
do you mean to be sharing slide 3? Because on my screen, I still see your cover page.
Yeah, I'm not certain what's going on. Thank you for bringing that to my
Okay.
attention. For some reason, it's locked and it's not allowing me to unlock it. So give me one moment and let me work through that. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I can't see any of you. So let me see what the issue is. All right, give me one more second. Let's try this one more time. All right, now everyone should see what I'm seeing. Is that correct?
I see a picture of tents.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for confirming that. Thank you. I'm not sure what the issue was, but thank you very much for bringing it to my attention. So February 23rd is the late registration deadline for student athletes. It's also the deadline for category exception petitions for Browns Creek. So both of those are coming up on February 23rd, which is Friday. February 23rd is also the deadline for coach ranking order. That spreadsheet was sent out to head coaches and some team directors. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but the deadline to get that completed in that spreadsheet is February 23rd. And then February 25th is the deadline for student athletes to register for Browns Creek. Any student athlete who plans on attending, racing or not, is going to need to register for Browns Creek before the end of 11:59 p.m. on February 25th. And then March 2nd and 3rd will be the Browns Creek race and adventure event weekend. Questions about these upcoming deadlines? Excellent. Composite team scoring splits. So I want to say thank you very much for all the hard work that those affected teams put into these. It was really great to see you all jumping in on them. You did a great job. I had meetings with some of you to kind of talk through what was going on. The one thing that we need to be mindful of now is if you have a new student athlete that has joined since we did all of that and they're not accounted for in that scoring split spreadsheet, please let me know so we can get them added in and we can talk through like where that puts everyone for the scoring splits. And it'll especially be an issue if for some reason some of your splits were at the max number of 11. And if that student athlete were to get placed into that one, it would cause us to need to do another split. So what we'll have to do is kind of figure out how we get through that without stressing the timing team. If this applies to you, just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to work through it with you.
Hey, Sean, real quick.
Yes.
I turned that in a while ago and then we had one student athlete leave. So I took her off of that.
Okay.
So I didn't know like when you're using it from.
So it's that document is live. So it's
Okay.
shared with the timing team.
Okay,
And
great.
so has that student athlete been deactivated in your pit zone?
Yes.
Okay, so that should be a wash. So they
Okay.
won't show up in anywhere for the timing to even account for. And if they're not on that spreadsheet, it'll all be good.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Any other questions on that? All right. Coach ranking order spreadsheet that was shared with head coaches and some team directors on Sunday. What you need to do, rank all of your student athletes in order from fastest to least fast, most casual, however you want to put it, regardless of their category, gender, or whether or not they will receive a call up. So the reason why we need this is for this first race, if a student athlete doesn't have anything that's going to get them a call up, then we have to go to that with that normal random call up where we figure out the order of the teams and then the timing team will actually seed everybody. So it won't be like the old days where we would just go kind of around the circle and point at teams and they would send somebody. Like we'll still have a call up for them, but we'll do it all in the background so that they'll have that. The other reason it would be used is if a student athlete doesn't race the first race. So then the last season's efforts don't have anything to do with their call-ups on the second race. It has to do strictly with this season. So if they don't race the first race, then they would get into that random draw for the second race. Questions on this? One word of caution, you don't need to do a sort function. You literally just go through and put the number by them. So like for my team, I have 9 student athletes and I just ordered put numbers by them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in whatever order I had them in. And I don't sort that from there. I just leave it alone and the timing team will take care of it. I think somebody had a question.
This only, like if they raced last year, they have a set call up. This is just for all our new people. Okay.
No, you
Still
do it
rank
for everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Do it for everybody, but they're going to get a call up. If they show up for the first race and they have a call up, they're getting called up. Other questions?
Hey, Sean, Diane Bush here.
Yes. Yes.
We have 47 students and I did them by category, somewhere from 1 to 12. Do I need to go back and do them 1 to 47?
Do we have anyone from the timing team here this evening?
Yeah, it's Phil here. And Jim may correct me, but I'm pretty sure that we can make that work. And I totally get with that many students that it can be hard. Yeah, unless Jim Otto says anything else, I'm pretty sure we can make it work. Yeah, so Jim just said I agree in the chat, so you're good.
Right, fabulous, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Other questions? All right.
Hey, Shawn, I have a question. This is Carolyn Prey.
Yes.
From Charlotte Catholic and Holy Trinity. For the middle school advanced boys, 7th and 8th grade advanced are racing together, and I see they're doing it based on their 3.5 mile time. Are
Hold up.
they competing?
We're coming.
Sorry.
Hold on. We're coming to that. I
Okay.
don't mean to cut you off, but that's the very next thing we're getting ready to talk about. So
No
before
problem.
we leave coach ranking order, let's kind of put that to bed, and then we're going to move into all of that stuff. So hold your question for just a moment.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about coach ranking order?
Yeah,
All right.
Shawn. Yeah,
Yes.
Shawn. So if I've already ranked them by their group and their speed within their group, do I just share that with you guys, or do I rework this spreadsheet that you gave us?
Did you put it on the spreadsheet that I shared with you?
Not yet, but I will.
Just, yeah, all that spreadsheet is the definitive
Okay.
record. So just put it in that spreadsheet.
But I can
Everything's
say
good to go.
HS1, here's 1 through 4, HS2, here's 1 through 9.
Jim and Phil already confirmed that yes, that'll be okay.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks.
All right. Other questions about this coach ranking order? All right. So let's talk about call-up procedures, and then we will kind of, I guess, let's lead off with Carolyn. What's your, I think I caught the gist of your question is the boys MSA category and scoring. What we're doing is it's just a combined category. It's just all MSA boys. They're not scored separately, nothing. They're all racing against each other.
So 7th grader and
Slightly
8th
girls.
graders are competing against each other.
And also 6th graders. So some 6th graders could have petitioned into that MSA boys category.
Okay, thank you. I had questions on that. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yep. It brings it in line with how we've been doing the girls category, where it's just a girls MSA. And so we do a boys MSA to match that, and also give a place. So we had lots of petitions for 6th graders that were trying to petition into like the 7A category. And it got really messy with, how long can you be a 7th grader kind of thing. And so we decided to just create this boys MSA category. And that way it fills kind of that niche that some of the 6th graders needed, and then puts parity with all of the 7th and 8th graders. So to tag along with that, so call-up procedures. So call-up lists for the boys MSA and the boys HS2 categories are going to be made using this 3.5 mile average lap projected time method. All other categories are going to be called up using last season's total point standings. And so this is only going to affect the call-ups at Browns Creek. After that, call-ups are based on current season point totals. So this is just a way for us to seed this first race and make some adjustments to take into account that some student athletes are faster, yet they don't do all of the races. And with these two categories, they have to be split. And so these splits are ones that can best be achieved through the 3.5 mile average lap projected time method rather than points. And I'm going to show you kind of how that methodology was arrived at. So this shows you if we looked at season points, this is how the middle school A boys field 1 and field 2 would be. And you can see there's lots of overlap. So pretty much most of field 1 would be catching up with field 2. So we would have to put a very large gap that would make 2-lap races very difficult. But if we do it by their average 3.5 mile lap time, then we get these 2 groups that are actually really, really, really on par with each other, so that we don't have these catch from the front and back of these groups. And the same goes for the high school too. So we see lots of different ability levels, and then as soon as we throw it into the average lap time, we see much less overlap. And so we're going to get a lot cleaner racing and a lot less of the catch from behind and having to work through the other groups. And so this was all about that risk management and trying to make sure that everybody was able to race and race cleanly without too much interference. So thoughts or feedback or questions about this?
And that would be reset after each race, the bins by the
So
projected lap
after,
time.
no, it's first
Just
race
for the
only.
first one. Okay.
Just for the first race. After that, it's all points.
It's all points. Okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
And these are based on all of last year's lap times, average lap times?
That is my understanding, yes. Jim and Phil, they did most of the work on this. So if they need to correct me, they can. But that's my understanding, is that this was all of last season, kind of put in, averaged out, and then a 3.5 mile lap average was arrived at and given out. And so that eliminates those student athletes that did 2 or 3 races and are really fast, and those student athletes that had lots of points because they just did all the races.
Yeah, cool process.
Sorry.
Cool process. I think that's great, and I love what you guys are doing. Thank you guys for doing that. I think the only variable is that I have like 4 athletes that grew 6 inches in the last 9 months or 6 months, but that is going to be an issue anyway. So
yeah, there's no perfect method, but we just
no.
still strive to be a little more perfect than we were the last time.
So the bins will be updated based on the who is registered, or this is from all and will stay as it is?
So literally this is just for the first race. The call-up order is done this way. It doesn't matter if you're registered or not. Everyone will be in the call-up list.
Oh, I see.
And so then we'll just start calling, and if someone's not there, just the next person comes in. Does that make
Oh.
sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
And then after this first race, then it goes to season standings. And so then if a student athlete doesn't come for the first race, then they're in that random draw for the second race because they don't have any season standing. And then after the second race, we start dropping the lowest race. And so then we can eliminate any student athlete that doesn't do the first race. I know that Asheville, it's a long trek out there. So if you have student athletes that aren't making the trek, after that second race, that won't be a hindrance to them for their call up, because we'll drop the lowest race. Not having shown up will be dropped, and they'll just have their performance from the second race to get their call up points.
If student athletes participate in all the races, do they still get bonus points at the end of the season?
I have not had discussions with anyone that far ahead.
No.
So is that Brian?
Yes.
Okay. So no bonus points.
Was that a change in a rule book this year?
It is listed as 6.11.e in the Appendix Bravo for North Carolina in the recent handbook. Yes, Ben.
Sweet. All right. Good to
You
know.
got it.
Thank you. Other questions about this call-up method? Or call-ups in general?
Sean, it's Travis Orange here with Southern Wake. I really appreciate all the work that went into this. It actually looks like it's, at least on paper, going to work out really well. I'm trying to reconcile in my head, I guess, those that raced middle school A last year. So those boys were doing 2 laps. So obviously, if they were just having to do 1 lap, like a 6th or 7th grader last year, they could have certainly gone full gas, and their average time for 3.5 miles would have been a lot faster. Did that come into play, or is that one of those imperfect things you just can't tackle?
My assumption is that that's something that just can't be accounted for in an averaging model like this.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That's correct, Sean.
Like I said, not perfect, but more perfect than it was last year. Other feedback, questions, concerns? All right. This is a reminder that a head coach must be present at league events. If you are sending a head coach designee, they must be designated as a head coach in pit zone prior to the event. So either the current head coach or the team director can go in and change the role for the designee and make them a head coach so that they have access to more of the information in pit zone. You do not need to take away the other head coach. As we've said a couple of times now, you having more than one head coach is okay. Please don't make everybody on your team a head coach. And the person who is the head coach designee has to be a level 3. They have to be capable of being a head coach. So a level 2 cannot be, and a level 1 definitely cannot be. So they must be a level 3. That is someone that has all of the training required to be a head coach, and you can just designate them as a head coach and they can carry on for the event. Are there any questions or concerns about that?
Yeah, Sean, I haven't done that for our teams yet. When I go in there, James and Adam are marked as head coaches. So I just mark another level 3 coach as head coach, and it knows which one. Like, I don't unmark James. If James isn't going to be there for the high school, I don't unmark him and mark someone else. I just mark somebody else. Like, how exactly do you mark that? So there's 2 people marked as head coaches on the high school team? Is that how I
that's
do
what
it?
you need. Yep. It's less about it's really less about us knowing who the head coach is. Although if there's something that needs to be discussed, I'm going to go to the team and say, who's the head coach? And then have a conversation with that person, because everything is always going to go either from race director, league director, or chief referee through the head coach. But the other is that the head coach in pit zone has a lot of access to information that a regular coach doesn't have. And so it's that being able to get in there and have that information that's important. And that's why we want to have these marked in pit zone and not just have some person who shows up and says, oh yeah, I'm the head coach. Even though they don't have the pit zone access for being a head coach. Other questions about this? All right. Just a reminder about field limit cutoffs. So if you remember the old days of Browns Creek, so this might be like 6th grade boys, all like 1,000 of them getting ready to take off in a group. But what we do now is if a field gets to be greater than 50, we cut it in half. So if we have 51, then we're going to have two fields, one with 26, one with 25. If we get a field of 100, then we're going to split that into 4. If we get a field with 200, we're going to divide and become 2 separate leagues. There's all sorts of permutations of this, but just understand that we don't want more than 50 student athletes starting together in a field at any one time. And so this is going to be how we look at that each time there's a race. Some races, if the registration is down, there might not be a field split. Others, if there is a large amount of registrations, then there might be a field split. And that split will just occur and it will go through the call-ups. So if it's a 26-25, we'll do first 26 for the first field and then the next 25 for the second field. Some way of just achieving some parity.
And that field separation will be published before the race weekend shows up?
That's a good question for our timing team. So there's a lot of crunching that has to be done. And I'm not sure what their timeline and turn is going to be on that, but it's my understanding that that stuff should be out prior to everyone coming to the race. Is that a good understanding, Phil, of Jim, Brian?
I'll take it first, and as Jim and Phil often do, they correct me, but I will say there's 2 aspects to your question, Ben. One, what the fields are in terms of the call-up lists, and we usually aim for Wednesday or Thursday of the prior to the weekend to get those call-up lists up on the website. And then the actual gap or separation of time between the categories and fields, same thing. By Wednesday or Thursday at the latest, we have the updated race schedule, and that's based on the registration deadline of Sunday prior. Timing team takes a look at it. We make the modifications necessary to the schedule to make sure we have good separation between the fields and categories. So Wednesday, Thursday is kind of the sweet spot for all that information coming together. And happy to hear from Jim or Phil on anything I misspoke on.
But it will be electronic is the goal?
Yeah, absolutely electronic. So event flyer is king. We already have the draft race schedule for Browns Creek up on the website. If everyone clicks on the event flyer, you can see the wave schedule right now. And there's a button for cranking at the creek for call-up lists. And as soon as we have them, we will put those on the website. Click that button and you'll have your call-up lists.
All right, other questions?
There was one in the chat I saw from Abby about will they be scored like a time trial if they're splitting by fields in a category?
So they're racing against each other, even though they're in separate fields. So at the end, all the times are taken and mashed together, and the final standings are put out based on that. So they're separated by fields, field size, but their times are all put back together. So they're racing as one field. This is how it was done last season. Same methodology. All right, any other questions? If you know a student athlete that would like to perform the national anthem at any of our race events, please contact Ben. There is his email address, and I also included it in the agenda for this evening. It's my understanding that they don't have to sing. They can play instruments. However they want to perform the national anthem would be good. And contact Ben and let him know their name and how he can contact them so that he can arrange all of that. Ben, do you have anything to add for that?
Did a great job. I appreciate it, Shawn.
No problem. Does anyone have another topic that they would like to discuss or have brought forward so that we can be aware of it?
I had one.
Okay.
On the volunteer list, I brought this up with Brian. You have a requirement for wilderness first aid for stationary marshals. And as we usually have put a lot of level 1 coaches in there, that would exclude most of them. Is that a misprint or is that a new regulation?
Jim, I think it's a misprint. I did a turn with the team last night and I've got one more turn on it. I think we're going to remove that WFA requirement and keep it level 1 coaches and above for our marshals with some first aid training. What the discussion we've had, Jim, is I think we have a group of coaches, maybe even parents with some significant first aid training that we're not giving them an opportunity to help out. And so it was a good catch on your part. I appreciate it. We'll correct that probably by tomorrow on the volunteer sign up. But yeah, thanks, Jim.
I've got a question.
All right, Abby.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the adventure ride that's going to happen, or the ability, you know, with that's new at Browns Creek, like our adventure trail that's open?
Sure. Is one of our adventure crew on that can explain this?
I'll take it.
Hey,
I guess
Shawn.
I'm part of the adventure crew. Like, what the heck? You know,
Oh, I
everything.
think somebody else was.
Hey, Brian, let me
yeah,
take
no,
a stab first. This is Bill, but then I'll
Yeah, Bill, go for it, man.
Sean and Brian to fill in. So, and Brian, you do the great job with the actual venue map. So there is a section of the trails at Browns Creek that is separate from the race course that has been identified as a trail that can be an adventure ride. And so it'll have a separate entrance and exit point from the main field. I believe it is about a 5-mile section of trails that has some ways that you can cut it off shorter. And so the plan on Saturday, while the adventure tent is open, I believe from 1 to 4, that trail will also be open for an adventure ride for teams to utilize. Now then, to be an adventure ride, we do it under NCICL criteria, which is that it needs to be coach led, going through the adventure trail course with a level 2 or level 3 coach in the front and maintaining the NCICL ratios. And with that, it can really follow the spirit of an adventure ride, that it won't have there won't be stationary course marshals. It's really dependent on the team to know the trail, the EAP, and to have the wilderness first aid training to be able to lead your student athletes along the course. So let me pause there and ask Brian and Shawn if there's anything more to fill in about the adventure trail.
Brian Russell, this is Ben Harbor. I noticed last night on the venue map, and it may have just been the device I was on, but can we change the color of the adventure trail route from the same color that the race route is on the venue map?
You found my kryptonite, and that's technology, Ben. Yep. That's a good point. I will try to do that because I think it would help differentiate. And that's what I was going to ask Abby if she was not able to see what the adventure course is at Browns Creek on the venue map, because we do have that posted to the website. And Bill, thank you very much for doing a great job describing the adventure course. And it is certainly available for teams on Saturday. So you can take your athletes on course inspection if they're racing. If they're not racing or they have some extra time and you want to check out a different portion of Browns Creek, go on the adventure course. And like Bill said, we'll have it marked with some things to stay off of and be careful about. The key decision is really if I keep that course open on Sunday, and I'm inclined to say we will, but I've got a small group right after this meeting, in fact, Abby, to make that decision. And the reason I'm just kind of hedging on the decision is it presents organizational risk in two forms on Sunday. One, if something really bad happens on that adventure course, it might pull my EMS services away from the race, and then I shut down the race. And that's just, it's not a good situation for everyone if we've got to do that. And then the second is I don't have a good sense if, I've got enough people filling all my volunteer spots. Jim brought it up, marshals, on Sunday to run the race. And if they're all out adventure riding with their student athletes, then that presents some organizational risk. But I think I'm inclined to do it. It's a great warm-up course, maybe cool-down course for your athletes. And like I said, if you've got your coach ratios set, let you ride that trail on Sunday. So that's the pending decision. We'll probably have that in the next 24 hours. But as Bill described on Saturday, yeah, it's just a great go check out another portion of Browns Creek, other than the race course. And that's why we're doing it. We're trying to provide more opportunities for more athletes in this league to do more things. And that's what we're going to do at Browns Creek because we've got 17 miles of trail to do it. So sounds pretty cool. Did that answer your question, Abby Walker?
Yeah, I was mostly wondering about the timing of it, like when it was open. I could see it on the map.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell which was, I figured I could tell there.
Yeah,
but-
and if we don't have that right on the event flyer, Abby, shame on us. But go to the event flyer, click on the adventure link on the event flyer for when adventure stuff opens on Saturday, and in the adventure portion of that, it should have all the details about Saturday adventure course.
Okay.
And Brian,
Before tomorrow, I'll train Brian Russell on how to change that color.
I'll say, Brian, just FYI, there was a version of that map maybe a week and a half ago that had two different colors for the race versus the adventure loop.
I'm convinced that's purely accidental on my part, Sean. So if
Okay.
we create, like if I go back 2 weeks to the button I click, no, we'll figure it out. Then he'll train me
All
like
right.
he does with everything else that happens around this league.
I got you.
All right. Are there any other questions?
Sean, you got some questions in the chat.
Okay, I'm not monitoring chat, so I'm going to need people to speak up. This is a lot like me teaching my class. Like, you got to unmute and speak.
So Sean, this is Bill. I saw one question in the chat related again to the adventure course, asking if friends from other teams can ride together on the course. And the answer, we actually just talked about that as the adventure committee. And the answer is yes. Again, as long as you're meeting the ratios and you have a level 2 or level 3 coach in front, you can. The one responsibility is that they need to be able to contact the head coach of any riders on the team to be aware of any needs that the athletes may have and to be able to mitigate any situations that happen on the course. So the answer is yes. Just make sure that coaches are in contact with the right head coaches from the respective teams.
And just my kind of 2 cents of experience here after this past weekend when we did a large multi-team adventure ride in Wilson's Creek with over 50 student athletes from 4 teams. It is incredibly beneficial for a coach that knows the riders on that team to be with you so that they can help kind of keep track of their student athletes. So if you are taking out a group of student athletes from, more than one team, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you can to get a coach from the team that the student athlete is coming from to ride with you, maybe serve as the sweep, just to kind of help out, and because they know that student athlete.
I'm sorry if this is repeating anything that Bill said because he did a fantastic job covering that, but just reiterating, if you did mention it, every ride group on that adventure course needs to have one coach with WFA.
And if there is a medical issue on that trail, you are to call 911, and that will initiate the emergency response. So don't wait to come back to the trailhead or anything like that. Call 911. They may be able to coordinate with EMS service if they're on site, but otherwise they are going to be the definitive ones to respond.
Hey,
All
Sean,
right. Yes, go ahead,
Brian.
Brian.
Yeah. One question from Keith about opening the adventure course earlier on Saturday. And Keith, I'm not inclined to do that. Saturday morning is our prep time to make sure everything is set for the day. We can take a look at that, but right now we'll probably keep it about the same. As with everything NICA, with a first time of anything, you go slow and deliberate to make sure it's done well. And that's probably why we're opening at the time we are. But thank you for raising the question. We'll take a look at it.
I had a question from a parent.
Yes.
I think it's too late, but they had asked if it was, I'm pretty sure is it too late to buy like the bundle of races and save money if you've already registered for one or two of them?
It is not too late, Abby. They have until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, February 25th to get the discount package. Because essentially, if you think about it, that's when Browns Creek registration closes, and then you can't sign up for all 6 events. So yeah, there is still time to get the discount package for all 6 events.
But if they already registered for Browns Creek, they probably can't do it. Correct?
It requires a little bit of work by this guy
Okay.
to help out. So if you want to shoot me a note, we can work
Okay.
through that to get it. But yes, we can make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Additional questions? Thank you for those of you that have been monitoring the chat and bringing those forward. So looks like we'll all be seeing each other at Browns Creek. Thank you so much for your time this evening. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself or Brian, and we will do everything we can to kind of get things worked out for you that you may need.
Shawn, can I have a couple minutes?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So thank you for all the questions. There may be some unanswered questions. And I just, a question to you all is, are you getting the information you need? We've implemented some changes for the season. For example, a late registration period. Was that helpful? Is it not helpful? Should we maintain it? I'm always assessing as we go throughout the season, things that we're implementing and changing. In terms of communication over about the next week, here's what to expect. I'll probably have a email out tomorrow to head coaches and team directors like I'm in the habit of doing. Certainly for those that couldn't make the call, but here's some things coming up, and it'll probably emphasize the deadline Shawn went through. So thank you, Shawn, for doing that. We do have some deadlines coming up. Thursday, I will release a single track times focused on Browns Creek, which will have a lot of information about what to expect at that weekend. I'm doing that in advance of the registration deadline, so your parents and kids can think about whether they want to come or not and make a good decision about registration. We'll host a staff meeting on Monday night, and that's when a lot of things come together. Like I've already mentioned, registration for Browns Creek is in. We start looking at schedules and fields and call-ups. And so you might see from me to head coaches and team directors an email Tuesday, Wednesday with any changes we're seeing. But really the next key communication event is the town hall next Wednesday, 8 p.m. via Zoom. The link will be in the single track times on Thursday, and I will send out an iterable, so mass email communication and Team Snap email Wednesday morning next week with the link to the Zoom call. If you, your parents, your student athletes have questions about cranking at the creek, dial into the town hall Wednesday so we can get those addressed. That's what I see over the next week or so in terms of getting to our first event, having a really good time seeing you all again to kick off our season. So thank you, Shawn. Just wanted to get that out there, and I'll hang on the line if anyone's got any other questions based on that. But let me know what aren't you getting that you need from the league here about what's coming up. And Jeremy Kavanaugh from our timing team already changed the color of the adventure course to yellow. So thank you, Jeremy. Awesome. Dan, yeah, man, he jumped in on you.
Jeremy's my buddy.
There you
I
go.
love him.
Well,
I think
thank you
he's a
so much,
Carolina fan
everybody.
too.
Thank you very much, and we will see you at Browns Creek.
Thanks, Tom.